So let's get into our next segment, a classic segment of one of my favorites. Baby, come back. Any kind of fool can see.
I was wrong, and I just can't live without you. Yeah, you're
So,
not gonna get a harmony out of me.
aw. Anyways,
sorry. No,
that's
no
cool.
tune caring for me.
If this is your first time knowing this segment, or you remember the segment, we pick a game that we haven't heard for a very long time. This is brought to you by the World Gaming Trade Show that I do with my friend Brando from the Game Addict Podcast, where we pick classic games and we love to see come back and who should take the helm. But in this segment, we don't do that. We just talk about a game that we want to come back and maybe what could they do with it. But we're not going to tell you who's the developer that should do it. That is part on the YouTube network of the In-Game Boss program, so definitely check that out. Our latest episode has been posted by the time you listen to the episode about 3 days ago. We did Bunk and the classic PS1 game, Driver. So, who should take those realms and what imagination did we come up with it? So, the game I'm going to talk about is a game that recently got the trademark renewed by Square Enix. They have bought the studio a long time ago, the studio that bought you Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, that studio, Eidos, I believe, or Crystal Dynamic, whatever you want to pick from there.
Eidos / Crystal Dynamic.
Yeah. But there was one game they did where they had a lovable mascot that represent pop culture, where everything he says is basically a line from a movie or just a pun or whatnot. We did an episode a while back on the in-game, the World Gaming Trade Show. We did an episode a long time ago to come back and what we wanted to see from this. But this is 2022. Things change. My vision has changed. So we're going to kind of, for me, I'm going to re-talk about it. But for you, this will be your first time talking about. Let's talk about Gex.
Yeah, I knew it, Gex.
Let's talk about Gex, the lovable lizard that you can actually get the second one and third one on the PSN network on the PS3.
While it lasts.
Yes, while it lasts. And he was your walking cliche lizard that jumped into different genres of movies and stuff, from martial arts to Indiana Jones to 007, all that kind of stuff. And there was a trademark in Japan for it. And the question is that if it does come back, why do I want it to come back? I think that there is enough material that is on the table for Gex to come back and make this game really hilarious in his own way. I don't think it's going to say like gangbusters. I think it's just a game that will bring back the classic of, remember this guy that was making fun of and doing parodies of everything? Well, now we have more material. We have Star Wars. We have more Indiana Jones. We have the superheroes.
Make fun of all the remakes that are coming
We have all
out.
the remakes. They can talk about Gex as a remake and how that works. They can even make fun of Gex itself for what that journey is. But I think it'd be interesting to see what they would do with Gex, because the first Gex was him hopping into different movie genres, like your horror movies and stuff. And then it started going 3D with everything else. And it was a collectathon.
Oh, yeah.
As you go to different places. And I guess the question is, Jaron, what could they do with Gex, in your opinion, to make it fun? What makes you want to, I'll give it a try again?
You can still have a collectathon, but don't make it so obvious a collectathon. I'm sorry. I personally hate collectathons, where it's like, oh, collect 85 of this or whatever. My patience just completely goes out the window. I think if you could get by with a standard 3D platformer. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is, from what I've heard, a very fun game, and it's still 3D platformer with some combat and storyline. So just give it the same Gex charm. Bring back Dana Gould to voice Gex, and like you were saying, modernize it with all these new proper IPs, these remakes. He could easily do something based off of the MCU and DCEU. That in of itself could just be the whole game theme right there. Mm-hmm. And he could just riff off of all of that. And the controls, I'll put it this way, the controls have to be tight. you can even just kind of mix some genres. You can have the platforming. Then you can have a little bit of the like Spider-Man or Arkham kind of, where he's like fighting, in a particular world or level or something like that, where he's dodging and everything like that. There's potential there, and of course, your obligatory racing or driving stage, but an escort mission where he's constantly bitching and moaning about having to escort such and such. Yeah, I think there's a lot of fun that can be had there, as long as they make sure they need to pretend like nobody knows what Gex is, because a lot of people don't know what Gex is.
Mm-hmm. You said Ratchet and Clank, and I talked about it on my World Gaming Trade show. My opinion hasn't really changed on that one. Is instead of just movies and stuff, I think it'd be more fun as he's a video game character. So it'd be funny if he tries to make his mark in the video game world by jumping to other classic video games to make a mark of it, or like make a parody of it. Like, could, you know what I mean? Like, you could do how funny would it be if they did a parody of like Death Stranding with Gex, or a parody of a Final Fantasy game, or a parody of, like I said, like Ratchet and Clank or Ghost of Tsushima.
This tragedy befell you. Now you have to go kill God. There's your JRPG.
Just like that. I think that would be really funny in its own way. Zelda, I thought it'd be kind of funny if he just jumped in and just makes fun of those games in a clever way. Like you go to Zelda and I'm like, I got to collect 3 things to save the world. Who wrote this story?
Exactly. I don't know. Do you remember on the original Xbox, there was a game called Bard's Tale?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Carrie Elwes voice. Yeah, so kind of like how that, like, it didn't blow anybody away, but I always remembered it because he kind of he kind of laughed at the tropes of your adventure, fantasy adventure, RPG stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, that everybody's always up for a good parody.
Yeah. Yeah, especially under Square Enix. I mean, they should have free access to a lot of their series for them to have fun with. I mean, I didn't even say Deus Ex, and that's one there they can do. Tomb Raider. Hitman. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of options there they can do with it. Now, like I said, we don't know if a Gex is going to be announced. It's just a talk that they renew the trademark for it. Who knows? They could be using him for a skin for a different game, or they can use him for just something else in a game to be funny as like a fun Easter egg and whatnot. We're not 100% sure what they could do with it because we don't know if there's a fan base for that game. It's been so
summon in Final Fantasy,
right? Because it's in the it's back in the Renaissance. I call it the Renaissance garbage can or the Renaissance junkyard of. That was the time where everybody was throwing a mascot at the window or the wall and just see who fit or not. It was a mascot war.